Welcome, everybody, to episode 57 of UnHacked. We are cybersecurity made simple for small business owners. I'm Justin Shelley, joined as always by my good friend, Bryan Lachapelle. Bryan, you're supposed to say hi. And Mario Zaki.
How are you?
God, we've got some Bueller moments going on here. Bueller. We're here to help small business owners navigate the chaos of cyber threats. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Is cybersecurity chaos? Would you classify it that way?
Pure, simple, linear. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. And it never changes.
Easy peasy.
That's the good news. Never changes.
Yeah, set it and forget it. That's sarcasm, by the way.
It didn't catch. Anyways, do you guys remember, oh man, last year at least, maybe longer ago, we had an episode on passwords.
Yes, it was our worst viewed episode ever.
I don't even think we watched it.
I haven't gone back and looked at the stats to see if it ever picked up. We've talked about it so much at this point, maybe it has. But we are going to dig in today. We're going to talk about passwords again, but we're going to add a little bit of a little spice to it. We've got joined today by Raul Cepeda Jr., Vice President of Product and Marketing at RF Ideas. Raul, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Tell me just a tiny bit about what you do in this RF Ideas company.
Yeah, so I guess simply put, RF Ideas is a manufacturer of credential readers. And what we do is we enable enterprise organizations to authenticate their frontline workforce, but in a passwordless way.
I love that.
So that's basically helping them authenticate into different critical endpoints or business applications. And there's three main levers we're trying to help them do, right? It's increasing their security, it's enhancing their efficiency, and then helping them maintain compliance.
Beautiful. And we're going to get into all those. So I usually do introductions a little bit different normally, but today I wanted you to go first because, guys, where we had a total flop on the subject of passwords, this episode designs to take away passwords altogether. Because if I had to summarize passwords, it would be A, passwords suck, and B, password managers suck slightly less. Correct?
Correct.
Fair enough? Okay.
Yes.
So, with that, guys, let's go ahead and run around the room and do some brief introductions. Bryan, we'll start with you. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, and who you do it for.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. My name is Bryan Lachapelle. I'm with B4 Networks, and we are based out of beautiful Niagara, Ontario, Canada. And we're also supplying services to Simcoe County, and we help business owners remove the headaches and problems and frustrations that come with dealing with technology, be it cybersecurity, applying AI in your business, or improving operations using technology.
It's a hell of an elevator pitch right there. Mario, can you beat that?
I'll try. Mario Zaki, CEO of Mastech IT, located in beautiful New Jersey, right outside of Manhattan. Been in business for 21 years, so work with small to medium-sized businesses, keeping them secure and helping business owners sleep better at night.
Beautiful. And I am Justin Shelley, CEO of Phoenix IT Advisors, and I help businesses build wealth and then protect that wealth from the Russian hackers. I hate them. The government fines and penalties, don't love them either. And guys, the class action lawsuits are coming for us. It's crazy. That's like the biggest rising threat, I believe, is not only if you get breached, do the bad guys get your money, but then the government comes for whatever's left. So the attorneys, both of them, all three. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump in here. Raul,
Trifecta.
Yeah, it's a fun world we live in. And by the way, I don't know about you guys, but I got into technology because I was a criminal justice major. You guys?
Same. I became like one of the highest rated. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no. Didn't think I'd be fighting crime. Here we are.
Right.
All right. So Raul, you came at me with this really cool idea. As we mentioned, our password episode flopped, and you are here to take away passwords. But like not just to make things a little bit easier, but you've got a story that really caught my attention that made a huge difference. Can you know what I'm talking about? And can you give us the details? Okay.
Yeah, so it's a healthcare application, right? It's we pair our readers with single sign-on software. So think of the healthcare clinician experience, right? On a day-to-day basis, a nurse is walking from one patient room to another patient room throughout the day. Each time they walk into a room, they have to enter their username and password to access not only in a specific endpoint, right, their workstation, their PC, but they also have to then log into every instance of their different healthcare systems, right? If it's Epic, if it's Workday, whatever it is.
Well, Raul, stop right there.
All right.
I'm calling bullshit because I've seen plenty of clinics where they don't use passwords or everything stays logged in.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone stays logged in, right? We'll talk about that one as well.
Okay,
but
okay.
but you think about that process, right? Where they're having to log into every instance, right? It can be pretty time consuming, right? So they have multiple passwords that they have to remember. And so we actually did a clinic or a study where they basically came back and said that they're having to log in on a daily basis 70 to 100 times a day, right? And that it actually equated to about 40 minutes of lost time per clinician per shift, right? So when you think about that time, rather than spending it on logging in or resetting your passwords because you forget your passwords all the time for all these different systems, what if they spent that time on patients instead, right? So we came up with the solution where rather than having to type in a password, you take your badge, you tap it on one of our readers, and it authenticates them, and it gives them a whole single sign-on experience, not just for the endpoint, but for every business application that they have as well. So it's seconds, right? We're not talking about minutes, we're talking about seconds, and that's what's called single sign-on.
I like
So out of curiosity, so how to when one of the nurses come to the station, a card, they scan it on is there any second authentication that goes through, like some sort of biometric or anything like that?
Yeah, great question, right? And so we have the ability to do, because we obviously, really promote having multi-factor authentication out there, right? So there's different methods that they can use as that other factor. The first actually factor can be a password, right? But we know that's not productive, right?
Right.
So rather than you tap your badge, a lot of times there's a 4-digit PIN that is assigned to each individual, right? Or 4 or 6, you can make it however long you want. That could be a second factor. Or what we are starting to see a lot of an uplift is biometrics, right? So they'll use their fingerprint, and that's another method to authenticate. And we actually have a reader in our portfolio today that can read cards. It can read their fingerprints. It could even read their smartphone if they wanted to leverage their smartphone as a credential as well.
Nice.
Watch.
The watch as well, yeah. So it's funny you say that. While healthcare hasn't been as quick to adopt the mobile credentials, we have seen other industries like banking or retail or others where they're starting to leverage what we see as mobile credentials, right? And what do you say? Well, what's a mobile credential, right? We actually use it every day. You think about the Google Wallet or the Apple Wallet. You go to your grocery store, and rather than pulling out your credit card, you take your smartphone, you tap it on the payment terminal, right? That's actually leveraging the wallet, right, for payment. In this case, the scenario now is leveraging your ID card that is actually stored on your Apple or Google Wallet. And it's the exact same process. You tap your smartphone on one of our readers, and that wallet credential is stored in your Google or Apple wallet, and now you're authenticating into a device.
Right.
Yeah, I love. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, since you have to log into your phone to begin with using some sort of biometric and/or password, once you have done that, now you can use the phone to authenticate to whatever application you're authenticating to. So
yeah, Brian, that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
Is there's now an extra layer of security because you could steal somebody's ID card, right? Like somebody can grab a badge off of a nurse or clinician, and yeah, there's a vulnerability there where I can take that and I have that person's credentials. But with the phone, because a lot of times we lock our phones right now, there's that extra layer of security because not only do you need to have the password to get into their phone, but then you need to have the password to get into the wallet, right? So there's an extra layer of security there.
Mario, did you have a question?
Well, what I was saying is my wife actually works in a hospital in the emergency room. And I remember one time I was on the phone with her and somebody came up to her and like, hey, they're using like a tablet for something. And they're like, what's the password into the tablet? And she's like, oh, it's 1234.
Oh, yikes.
And I'm like cringing on the phone. I'm like, what's on this tablet? She's like, oh, it's, they're doing something where we can just go in with a chart and stuff like that. I'm like, why is it so, like, why is it 1, 2, 3, 4? And she's like, oh, because typing on that thing is so annoying, and we were all getting annoyed when IT told us you have to use something secure, and we all hated it, so we changed it to 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like,
All right, so now
oh
list out the hospital and what department so that
Yeah,
criminals
right.
can go and use that tablet.
I mean,
So
but
Mario, it's funny you say that. Do you know what the most common password that's used in the world right now?
1, 2,
What?
3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the most common password that is still used.
followed by password, followed by QWERTY, QWERTY,
Exactly.
password 123. I mean, guys, if you're using any
Welcome
of these
one.
and you heard me just say them, change it right now.
Change it.
Although
Summer, spring, autumn.
I'm still going to hold that it's better than what I see a lot of times in the healthcare world of no password at all.
No passwords. Right.
No passwords.
Yeah. No log out. No timeout on the screen. You know, they walk away from their computer. It's wide open.
actually, Raul, that actually brings up a good point. Can your reader detect when they walk away? Could it automatically
Absolutely.
lock?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Wow,
we actually
nice.
have a reader that has BLE capability into it, right? And so you can set a range on the device where as you're approaching it, you don't actually even need to pull out your badge or your smartphone. It'll actually recognize the individual as they're walking up to their workstation, and then it'll prompt up the screen to say, okay, first factor is that BLE, you're close to the workstation. Now we're going to prompt whatever that second factor of authentication, right? A PIN or a biometric, whatever it is. But then as you start to step away from that workstation, once you get, let's just call it 3 feet away from your workstation, it automatically locks you out, right? So we call it, with one of our partners, again, joint collaboration, we call it the walk up, walk away solution. So it starts to recognize you as you're walking up as well as you walk away. Because that's a great point, Mario. Like you look at the vulnerabilities or people that forget to log out, and then all of a sudden a patient comes into that room and
right.
I see Mario's stuff on the screen. I'm like, oh, there's their social, there's their medical history, everything.
HIPAA
And guess what that
violation. HIPAA
violates?
violation.
HIPAA violation. There you go.
No, I've seen it. I've been there. I've been in a room where the person walks away and they're like, "All right, we'll be back when, we hear back about your results or whatever." And I'm sitting there in a room, the computer's logged in, and I'm just looking at, I'm looking at like what RMM tool they're using. I'm looking at this, whatever. I could switch charts if I really wanted to.
Run a file.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a bigger problem than people using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or whatever you said's the biggest, the most
Yeah.
common password. It's just like not doing it at all, which,
Yeah.
I mean, it's security fatigue. There's a lot of words for it. I like to say that if security isn't a giant pain in your ass, you're doing it wrong. But you're here to prove that wrong as well. So I absolutely love this.
Yeah, and Mari, like I think the example you gave is great, right? There was a major healthcare system here in the Chicagoland area that was breached because somebody left their device unlocked, and bad actor came in who had been kind of monitoring the hospital for a while. They acted as a patient. They went in, saw that one of the screens was left open, and they plugged in their little USB connector and left some malware into the device, right?
Wow.
And shut down the whole hospital.
Wow.
It's
That's ballsy.
Crazy
Did
stuff.
they find them?
Did they find them? I don't know if they ever found the actual individual. I know they were shut down for quite a while, though.
Probably enough.
Like, I wonder if he used his real name and his real chip.
Well, there's,
Oh no, I'm sure.
there's
Yeah.
got to be cameras. I would hope.
Yeah.
And then I also hope that people use passwords. Okay, so let's talk about limitations, because what I'm trying to figure out is, can I throw away my password manager?
You can throw away your password manager, right? I mean, I think password managers, they're a great tool out there, right, to help kind of manage. So there's some efficiencies with them, but you think about your password manager today. What do you need to get into your password manager today?
A
A
password.
giant password.
Password.
Yep.
So guess what happens when somebody cracks into your password manager?
Oh, they
now have
own you.
every password to everything, right? And so, when we look at it, there are some efficiencies, obviously, with password managers, but they themselves are just as vulnerable, especially if people don't have MFA enabled into their password manager. So if you are going to leverage a password manager, the only thing we kind of recommend folks to do out there is make sure that that those things are secured, right? You have multi-factor authentication into those password managers because, again, they're just as vulnerable as the endpoint that you're trying to get into at the hospital.
So where do you find places that your system won't work? So, for example, you have to have a physical device on each endpoint that you want to access, right?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest. I mean, if you look at some of the biggest roadblocks, right? Like, I want to make an investment in the solution, but I got to buy the hardware for it, right? And so you'll see a lot of kind of hesitation to say, can I make an investment, into this, right? I got to buy one device per endpoint. Our response usually back for that is, the average cost of a data breach out there in the US last year was $9.36 million, right? So when you're thinking about making, let's call it $100,000 investment in hardware and software, right? It's peanuts compared to what the consequences could be if you experience a data breach, right? And an enterprise organization, 9.3, it's a drop in the bucket, right? But a small to medium business, that's crippling to a small medium business, right? To have to pay even hundreds of thousands of dollars out, let alone the millions that are averaging per a data breach every year. Yeah. So yes, there is a cost investment to it. It's fairly minimal. We're talking about $150 to $200 per reader, along with some software that will manage that, right? A single sign-on type software, which I think we see at about $55 or so per license per year. So there's an investment to it, but again, if you look at the investment
per year. So when you and I talked before this, I think I wrote down per month. So it seemed like a bigger price than it is. That's actually not bad at all. We're talking
55 per year,
$4 or $5 a month. Like that's not even hitting a radar. Now you're comparing it to the cost of a breach, which is a what if, and a lot of people can stick their head in the sand and say it's not going to happen to me. So I don't care. But let's talk about this 40 minutes a day, the study that you guys did. Did you turn that into a dollar figure per user by chance, per employee?
Yeah, so we actually so there was a cost at some point where it wasn't necessarily tied to the amount of logins per day, but they were able to give us some statistics about how many password resets they were having to conduct. Because again, you have to remember multiple passwords throughout the day. A password reset cost is generally about $70 per password reset. That is everything from the lost productivity to the IT staff that you're having to manage to do that. And so when we did that, I believe we came to the conclusion that one of the organizations where we did this study, that they were having to pay out in the hundreds of thousands of dollars per year just on password resets alone.
Yeah.
So there is a cost savings there from having to do those password resets, let alone the 40 minutes of time that they're losing every day, every clinician each day, right? That can be more focused on the patient themselves, right? Now, the cost there, it's hard to put an actual cost to that, but what a lot of these hospitals in this scenario, right, they're measured on patient satisfaction, right? That's a very, very critical thing for IT folks, and even the staff that's there, is that the critical care that they're providing the patients and the customer satisfaction, which is coming from surveys. And if you hear the number one complaint most of the times is, I'm having to wait too long, or, I can't get my into the doctor quick enough. I'm waiting in the waiting room. And where's that lost savings coming? Partly to this, right? It's not the only problem, but that's one of the problems.
So in a case where somebody who wants to access their systems on a device and or, like, for example, a mobile device, or maybe you have somebody working from home that day, and they're administrative on the administrative side, and they normally use your device to log in, but they can't now because they're not working in on a computer and or a device that has the endpoint or the device. How would they authenticate then?
Actually, no different, right? Okay. So a lot of folks that are working remotely can leverage this exact same device, right? They're on the network, and a lot of times they have VPN, right? So it's really no different if they're remote or in the office. Mobile devices, we actually have what's called a nano product. It looks like a little dongle, like the dongle that goes in for your keyboards or your mouse, and that will actually get plugged into an industrial mobile computer or a smartphone. And actually, it's the exact same experience, right? So I plug in that little dongle via USB-C into my smartphone.
Oh, really?
I take my badge out. I could tap it onto a smartphone.
Really?
So when we say endpoints, we're not just talking about your laptops and PCs. We're talking about mobile devices, and we're agnostic whether you're in the office or you're in a remote environment as well.
What about for web pages? I mean, is there a way to authenticate through to websites and applications, stuff like that?
Yeah. So there's a big, association out there. So we call it the FIDO Alliance, which is basically what their goal is to eliminate passwords altogether, right? So they have kind of teamed up with a lot of the major tech corporations like Google and Apple, Amazon, a lot of these organizations to basically eliminate passwords, right? Like their mission is to develop and promote authentication standards out there. And so one of the things that they do is they leverage kind of WebAuthn to kind of help organizations log in. It's not just about your workstations, right? But it's about all the business applications, especially those that are web-based. And so some nice stats around there. Actually just recently I attended a industry trade show where they were kind of giving the state of authentication or the state of passkeys, which is the term that they coined for this type of authentication. And today, there's more than 15 billion accounts that are actually leveraging passkeys to authenticate into different websites. And some of those websites include Netflix, Amazon, your banks, right, that you're trying to log in. If you go into like your Gmail or things like that, a lot of times you're going to get the option. Do you want to authenticate via your password, or do you want to authenticate via a passkey? Right? That passkey is what the FIDO Alliance has actually established out there as the most secure method of authentication.
Question for both you, Mario, then Bryan. Do you guys see passkeys being used with your clients?
Not as much as I would like it to be. Even myself, I don't do it as often as I should.
Yeah, Bryan.
I would agree. It's not a technology that we're seeing wide adoption on yet, even internally within our own teams. Having said that, it's probably because not a whole lot of people are out there talking about it. And so I remember when it first came out, we were talking about passkeys, and there was a lot of hype surrounding it. And, you'll never need a password again. And then it just sort of died on the vine. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it anymore, whether it's in the industry or whether it's with consumers or even the big three. They're not really promoting it as much as they were when it first was introduced. Almost like it's like a secret.
Or it'll just take time.
Now, Raul,
go ahead, Mario.
I have a question, Raul. Like, is this something like that we like as MSPs? Like, I know we offer, and I am pretty sure these guys too. We offer a password manager to our clients. Mm-hmm. Is this something that we can start like replacing a password manager with and say, we go to our clients like, all right, we're going to, for a similar price as your password manager, we're going to put this on all your computers. Everybody can use a card or use their phone or something like that. And that would replace their password manager altogether. But also my second part of that question is kind of like what's related, what Justin was related. What if that person wants to like log into like 365 from home or wants to log into their like bank at home or something like that? Would they need another one at home?
Yeah, I mean, we probably got to differentiate a little bit of the workforce versus the consumer use cases, right? Like when you look at passkeys as an example, yeah, it's absolutely true. Like most of the adoption there has been up to this point on the consumer side, right? Google and Apple in particular, and Microsoft have really made a mission on eliminating passwords, right? And it's starting on the consumer side, right? Because if you can get the adoption there, then you start to see that adoption start to come and transition into the workforce, right? Think about the tablets, right? We all had iPads at one point, right? When iPads were brand new and it's like, oh, I'm using it for my games. I'm using it for this. Now all of a sudden you start to see iPads transition into the workforce, and they're leveraging tablets and that nature, right? So I think that's what FIDO is trying to do, is let's get the adoption rate out there on the consumer side. And we have seen a steady increase in adoption of the workforce. But going back to your question, I think, can you leverage it for, I'll talk specifically about the workforce. Can it replace a password manager? We look at our platform, we call it Converge ID. Converge ID, what that platform enables you to do is take a smart card that you use for your building access today, right? And convert that actually into a passkey, right? So now I can leverage the ID card that I use to get into the buildings for what we call logical access. So everything beyond the door. Those different use cases are a variety of different things. Getting into a workstation, when I do secure printing on a MFP, on a multifunction printer, right? Pull printing, or even doing time and attendance, right? I can leverage now my badge for all these different use cases. And so what the Converge ID platform does is not only does it convert it to passkeys, right, that ID badge, but now you can manage all your users there, right, and all the different, and within the Converge ID platform, we have integrations into things like Ping Identity, into Okta, into all your different IDPs, as well as the different business applications that you're trying to get into. Now, are we 100% of the way there? Are we going to have an integration into every platform that you leverage on the work side? No, right? But that's the nice thing about the platform is it's pretty it's easy to kind of start to build out those integrations. It's very seamless to kind of start to build out more and more integrations into the different business applications. So yes, I to answer your question, I think it's yes. We can kind of replace that password manager, because again, that password manager in a way is I don't want to say it's an apples to apples comparison to our platform, but it does. We are able to fill some of those gaps with our Converge ID platform that a password manager would be doing for you today.
In the conversion process, like say I don't know, like you have like 200 passwords in your password manager. Is there a way to, like, I know you could export it on there, but is there a way to import it into your system, or how does that process work?
Absolutely. Yeah, as long as we understand what the systems are, we already have connections in our platform, so it should be a pretty seamless experience, right? The other thing is, pulling in your Active Directory, right? If you have some type of directory there where you have users and they're tied to a badge, right? So they have some unique identifier. We're able to upload your whole employee list into our thing via, as simple as a CSV file.
I mean, and does it work with just plain website? Like, say you want to log into unhacked.com, or I'm sorry, unhacked.live.
You're fighting words right there, Mario.
Yeah. If you want to log into there, can your system log into that, or you have to have an integration with it?
So the website, first off, the website themselves has to be able to meet the conformity of passkeys, right? So, or the FIDO Alliance, right? So if you look at right now, most of the web browsers, I think there were some stats that like 96% of active browsers today and 98% of mobile devices support passkeys, but your website needs to kind of conform to the standards of the FIDO Alliance to be all to do that.
Justin, are we conformed to the FIDO Alliance on unhacked.live?
Hell yeah, we are.
All right, good. All right, so we're covered.
I mean, because you don't need a password for unhacked.live. We ain't got nothing to hide. Come on, guys. Raul, like, I'm trying to find a downside to this. I'll be honest. There's got to be something.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason why I shouldn't jump right now, kill my password manager, and put all your... By the way, guys, just in full disclosure, I've already signed up as a reseller with these guys. Like, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, again, it really comes to the cost. It comes to the cost, right? I mean, are people willing to make an investment? I think the other thing we often hear from a lot of IT and security professionals is, we're not just competing with our competitors, right? It's not just about, do I want this? It's how do you make this a priority for individuals that are responsible for the cybersecurity within the organization, and they have a project where I only got so much budget and I got to buy new laptops, or I got to put a new infrastructure in place. So we're competing with other IT and cybersecurity initiatives. But again, for us, it all starts with access management, identity and access management as a whole. There's a few different pillars, right? There's the access, getting access first. Then there's assigning privileges, right? So what we call privilege access management, that's saying, hey, Justin, you have access to this network, but you don't have access to that network, right? And then the last thing is about governance and monitoring, right? Once I actually get breached, how do I make sure there's red flags that go up whenever I see some unauthorized activity, right? But again, it all starts with the access management.
I got
right?
two things I want to.
81%.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I want your 81%.
No, I was going to say the 81%, right? I mean, I think that's a key thing, right? When you look at the data breaches that are occurring out there, 81% of the time it's occurring because of a stolen credential,
right,
a stolen password, right? So we got to eliminate passwords, right? Otherwise, we're going to continue to see these data breaches.
Okay, so 2 points. Number one, I'm going to keep saying this. I've already seen people eliminate passwords. They're doing it every day with no alternative, unfortunately.
No alternative.
but I think like that problem that I brought up in the very beginning, I think it addresses that as much as it addresses anything else, because security is a pain in the ass. And what you're doing is making it simple, number one. Number two, you talk about cost as a entrance barrier, but let's just use my phenomenal math skills, because I am brilliant, just like Einstein. And we're gonna put a dollar amount to these healthcare professionals that we're spending 40 minutes a day. Let's just say they're worth $60 an hour to keep this really, really easy for my brilliant math skills. That means $40 a day, 40 minutes, right? $1 a minute. $40 a day is what they're wasting in that environment. Now, everybody's environment is a little bit different. Everybody's waste is different. But just in that scenario, $40 a day times, let's say 20, 22, but we'll use 20 for simplicity. We're talking, check my math, guys, isn't that $800 a month?
$10,400 a year.
Okay. Like, this is not a problem. The cost is not a problem. The waste that we are, the absolute waste in not doing it seems to be a much bigger problem or barrier than it's not even a barrier. It's the opposite. It seems silly to not do this. And that's why I'm like, in all seriousness, in all candor, I'm looking for the downside because I don't see it. And the room goes silent. See? Silent. That's it. Episode over. Thank you for joining us today, guys.
Episode over. There you go.
I can't see the downside either. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that for some small businesses where they are operating from home, where the employees are expected to use their home computers to connect to corporate resources, that might be a challenge. But in a high security environment like a hospital and or any healthcare or military or anything like that, I don't see the downside, because you shouldn't be allowing them to use personal computers anyway.
Exactly. And if they are, to me, you have to secure them. So that means give them a $150 device to take home. Like, guys, it's the cost of a monitor. Yep. The cost of a cheap monitor is what we're talking about. So cost just doesn't even seem like an issue here for me.
No.
All right. Any other kind of final thoughts, guys?
No, I'm going to buy one now. No kidding.
Yeah, I want to start reselling this and using it for, instead of doing password.
No. This is my competitive advantage, and I'm coming for all you guys. I've already signed up, and it's exclusive. Only one host of UnHacked can be a partner at a time. No.
All right, I'll buy them from you,
fair.
Justin.
Fair. The device price just went up to $500 per device. No, but seriously, go join. Any other MSPs listening, go become a partner with these guys, because again, I don't have my first device yet. I will have it soon, and I can't wait to learn, to actually put this into place. Maybe we'll have a follow-up episode after we've all implemented this with ourselves internally and all of our clients. 100% adoption rate. That's kind of my hope. So, guys, I think we've kind of covered everything. We're going to go to key takeaways. And, Raul, we do this at the end of every episode, and we're going to go around the room. We'll start with Mario, then Bryan, then you. If you just had one thing, if our audience listened to nothing but this, give us a sentence or two that they should know and an action item that they can put into place right now. Mario, you go first.
Yeah, it's pretty much something you said earlier. Passwords suck. Password managers suck a little less. And there's now a third option. There's something to make people's life easier. And this is it.
All right, Bryan.
That's it.
I don't know a single soul that loves having passwords, loves tracking passwords, loves remembering passwords, or even using a password manager without pulling your hair out. So I don't see the downside. If you're a business, especially one that's in a high security environment that requires to know that the person logging in is the person at the other end that is supposed to be logging in, reach out to one of us, because we'll probably all be partners by the end of the day.
Exactly. All right, Raul, what do you got? Key takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage, any of the MSPs out there, ask the security or IT professionals out there, when's the last time you conducted a access control audit of all your endpoints,
Wait, a what?
right? A lot of times,
I'm
an
just kidding.
access control audit. Yeah, you're going to hear crickets, right? Or you're going to hear a what? What are you talking about? A checklist or what? And if that's the case, right, they probably have a lot of vulnerabilities in their environment, right? So this is an easy way to kind of help reduce, the possibility of a data breach out there. And so we encourage you to reach out to the MSPs and learn a little bit more about our solutions by going to rfideas.com.
Love it. All right, guys. As always, go to unhacked.live, not .com, Mario. Go to unhacked.live for show notes, for more information about our guest, Raul. Raul, you'll have your own profile up on our website. And as always, we all offer some version of a free security assessment. So if you look at your IT guy and say, hey, when was the last time you did an access control audit, and they give you crickets or a blank stare, we'll give you one for free. So jump on there and listen. Like, in all seriousness, there's no strings attached, but know where your blind spots are. So that's kind of my key takeaway that I'll say a lot of times is you got to know where your blind spots are. And I will tell you, passwords right now is huge, a huge problem across the board for so many reasons. So, all right. With that, guys, we are going to go ahead and sign off. That's it for this week's episode of Unhacked. Let's say our goodbyes. Bryan, go first.
With B4 Networks, hey, everybody, just start your cybersecurity journey today. Improve a little bit every day, and let's get rid of passwords together.
Mario.
All right, thanks, guys. And if you're staying up at night worried about your business, help us help you stay secure.
Raul, final sign off.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me today. And again, let's get rid of passwords.
Thank you so much for being here. All of you, especially Raul. I am Justin. Remember, listen in, take action, and keep your businesses unhacked. See you next week.